and welcome to On the Move, a show about what's going on in Hampton Roads featuring community leaders who are moving the region forward. I'm Thomas Becker with Hampton Roads Transit, and today we're at the City of Norfolk's Police Operations Center to talk emergency planning and preparedness at the start of the hurricane season. All right, we're starting with Ricky Matthews. He's an emergency planner with the City of Norfolk. Thanks for having us in your space.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome in.
You're new in the role. You're a former broadcast meteorologist. How did that position prepare you for this role?
So all of my, my schooling and everything was in meteorology. And so for the last 10 years, I've been working in the TV field, talking about the daily weather, talking about severe weather, but also talking about emergency preparedness, especially when we get into the spring months and when we get into the start of hurricane season. We always would do specials. We always would kind of highlight things that people should do now to prepare for the upcoming storm season. So in my new role here at the Office of Emergency Management, one of our big tasks is outreach, and we try to get out into the community, talk to the public, make sure they know what the threats are that we face here in the City of Norfolk, and also how they can prepare. So in the past, I would just communicate all that through a TV lens and never really see people in person unless we were going out to an event. Now, a lot of our events are in person, or we still do some virtual ones as well. So my communication skills, my talking ability, talking for a living as I used to do, translates pretty well into this new job.
Comes in handy.
Yeah.
We'll get to those tips in a moment.
Okay.
But as you get ready for that hurricane season, what do you look for? What does the city look for to be sure you're prepared, that citizens are prepared?
So we have a hurricane plan, which is available on norfolk.gov/emergency. If you go on there, it outlines what hurricanes can do to our region, the threats we face here, and it talks about how citizens, businesses, anyone can prepare. In that, we also have different roles and responsibilities that some of our partners or city departments participate in. So each year, just like everyone should, we review our hurricane plan, make sure it's up to date, and then also look at what the forecast is showing, the seasonal outlook from NOAA and other entities out there, and see if it's going to be an active season. Now, I always am a little cautious to say it's going to be an active season or a below active season because, remember, it only takes one storm, right? Whether we have 20 hurricanes or 2 hurricanes, if one of those happens to come here to Hampton Roads, that could be a really bad year. You take the year Hurricane Andrew hit Miami as a Category 5, and it took until August to get the first storm of the year. We had last year where we went all the way into September, and we really hadn't had a whole lot of storms. But then we saw what happened after we got into September. We had Milton, Helene, a lot of storms that impacted the United States. So our message is kind of always the same. Prepare every single year. It only takes one storm, and you should be ready every single year.
Good advice. How does the city coordinate with other municipalities and agencies like HRT?
So all of us have each other's phone numbers. All of us have different ways to contact each other. But one of the main ways we do coordinate is to invite other entities in, like HRT. HRT is represented on our planning calls. They're also represented if they wish to come into our Emergency Operations Center, and they can do that virtually or in person, depending on what type of status we're operating our EOC in. We also coordinate with HRT and all of our other local partners through planning in terms of training and exercises that we do to make sure if a storm or other type of event happens that we know what everyone's roles and responsibilities are going to be. And then just among anything else, or kind of the main thing we all do is just try to communicate, right? Keep those lines of communication open, because during a disaster, communication is usually the first thing that either goes well or breaks down. And when you have that breakdown in communication, everything else sometimes snowballs from that. So we try to make sure that we keep citizens aware of maybe any HRT changes to, for example, during snow, the snow routes, or if there's flooding expected, any other HRT route changes. And we try to make sure HRT is aware of how the city is going to be operating, whether we're operating on a delayed status, a closed status, or something else.
Well, let's talk about tips right now. What should citizens kind of on an annual basis be reminded of as we approach hurricane season?
So you can kind of think of it a couple different ways. People and pets, right? So I always like to throw in pets because people and pets just go together, right? And we've learned over the years that sometimes people won't evacuate if they don't have a way for their pets to be safe as well. So when you're making your plan, I always like to say, think of your family and think of your pets as a member of the family. So a couple basic things: food, water. I always like to throw in a cell phone charger as well. Make sure you have a way to communicate with someone out of town. Make sure you have an out of town contact. And for kind of things you can do before the storm threatens, first thing is know your zone, right? The City of Norfolk uses the Virginia Department of Emergency Management's hurricane evacuation zones. So those zones are A, B, C, and D. However, in the City of Norfolk, we don't have any Zone D because the city is susceptible to flooding. So every resident, every property in the City of Norfolk is either Zone A, Zone B, or Zone C. And if you don't know your zone, you can go to knowyourzoneva.org and look it up. That's kind of your first step, right? Because that kind of determines what your risk is. From there, you can kind of use that information to help build out your family's plan. And once again, making sure you know what you would do if an evacuation order is issued, whether you're going to go to a family member's house, whether you're going to go to a city shelter, whether you're going to leave town, or if you live in Zone A and perhaps the evacuation is only for Zone A, which is the most susceptible to flooding, you don't have to drive all the way to Richmond. You can just go to somewhere else in the city that's outside of that Zone A evacuation. Perhaps one of our shelters, or perhaps a family or friend that lives in Zone B or Zone C, so that you don't have that huge expense of going all the way to Richmond. One other thing that I'll tell people to do too is check your flood insurance policy, right? Because flood insurance takes 30 days to take effect. Make sure you review your homeowner's policy and take photos of things around your home. So just walk through your house with either your cell phone or a video camera and either take pictures of each room or just videotape your house, because that can be really useful for insurance purposes. Unfortunately, if a storm hits and you have to make a claim.
That's a handy tip, and we'll be sure to have that link on our program. Last question, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? The fact that it's been many years since we've seen a significant hurricane impact to our region, right? You go back to 2003, that was Hurricane Isabel. 7.89 feet was the tidal surge at Sewell's Point. That is the second highest surge on record, only eclipsed by the 1933 hurricane, which pretty much went straight up the Chesapeake Bay. We've had other storms, of course, since Isabel. We had Irene, we had Sandy in 2012. We've had some impacts from Florence and Michael and some other storms that came close to us, but didn't give us that big impact. So it makes me nervous that people have gone many years without seeing the true impact a hurricane can bring.
Complacency?
Yeah, a little complacency, but also, we're a pretty transient community. We have a lot of people in the military who come here, who stay for a couple years and then go. Right. Or people from other parts of the country who have never experienced a hurricane. My aunt, I always joke about her sometimes. She came here one time, we had a hurricane coming through, I believe it was Irene, and she joked, "Oh, you guys gonna come over for dinner?" We're like, no, the storm's gonna last for like 12 hours, but she was used to just thunderstorms, right? And she thought, oh, it'll be done in a couple hours. Hurricanes can last 12, 24, sometimes even longer, depending on how fast they're moving. So that's what keeps me up at night, is just worrying that people are a little complacent, maybe haven't prepared as they should, and then don't know their risks, which goes back to that knowyourzoneva.org. We meet a lot of people who don't know their zone, and that's why we're here. We want to help you figure out your zone, figure out your risk, and make sure you have a way to get alerts and information. The City of Norfolk has an alerting system. We call it Norfolk Alert, and you can sign up for that at norfolk.gov/alert. And what that will do is, in the event of any type of evacuation order being issued or any type of severe weather alert, it'll send you a text message, phone call, or an email, depending on what you choose. It's totally free to sign up, and you can enter your home if you live in the City of Norfolk, or if you work in the City of Norfolk, you can put your business in there too. I have our office here in my system so that I get alerts for our location. And it's a totally free service that I highly encourage everyone to sign up for, because that's one of our primary ways of notifying people when severe weather threatens and, of course, when hurricanes threaten.
Great advice, Ricky. Thank you.
Yeah,
Best
absolutely.
wishes in your new role, and thank you for joining us for On the Move. Thanks for watching On the Move. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Our series on emergency preparedness and the hurricane season continues next week when we sit down with HRT's emergency manager, Florence Mason.